Series Sam, the first encounter, turns 25 years old today. For this special occasion, I decided to compile and showcase all the interesting things from the game's levels. Everything from unused entities, changes between versions, development leftovers, things not working properly, and various engine quirks. Some of these are well known within the community, some of them were already shown by other creators, some might be completely unknown, left unnoticed through all these years. All of them give insight to the game's development and help us better understand the thought process the developers had at the time. I will be mainly focusing on Series Sam classic versions of the levels, only making references to other versions where there are significant changes present. But before I begin, I need to explain the functionality of some entities in Series Engine. I'll try to be as quick as possible and only explain the most necessary things. If you want to learn more, you can check out the unofficial Series Editor 1 entity documentation, which describes exactly how every entity works. This document has helped me tremendously during the production of this video. Enough stalling, let's get started. World bases are the brushes that make the level geometry. That includes the terrain, the buildings, the columns, everything. Usually a level is made out of one big world base which contains the basic geometry of the level and many small world bases which are used for detailed and repeating structures. Moving brushes are brushes which can be animated or destroyed. Triggers are the main tool used for level scripting. They are responsible for all the logic in the level, from opening doors to spawning enemies to playing cutscenes. Here I need to explain the difference between activating an entity and triggering, since both words have similar meaning and can cause confusion. Activating an entity enables that entity to take action, while triggering it causes an action to happen. Activating is like plugging the power, triggering is like pressing the power button. Touch fields are invisible brushes which are used to trigger entities when entering or exiting them. Door controllers are an early version of this entity. They are not based on brushes but on numeric values, which means they can't take complex shapes. They can only trigger things on enter and have some door-specific properties. Copiers can copy items already existing in the level. This is mostly used to spawn in pickups like health, ammo, armor, weapons and keys, though it can be used for other things as you'll see later in the video. Enemy bases are the enemies we fight in the game. They can have different properties like maximum attack radius, jump height, and ability to hear or see the player. Enemy bases can be turned into templates, which are used by enemy spawners. These entities will spawn the selected enemy template with its count and delay set by the designer. It has multiple different types of behavior. Respawner will spawn enemies from a group until each enemy from that group is killed. Only then it will start spawning the next group. Respawner by one ignores groups and spawns a new enemy after each kill. Simple type will spawn all enemies within the given delay, with no other pauses. Triggered spawner will only spawn a group of enemies after getting triggered. It will not spawn another group until it is triggered again. Teleporter will teleport a non-template enemy to its coordinates. Destroyable spawner is vague and it's not exactly clear what its purpose was. It will disappear after destroying a moving brush that is attached to, but it's not used in that way anywhere in the game. Markers are used to set paths for entities, such as moving brushes or enemies. Player marker sets the starting position for the player. It can also be used as a checkpoint in co-op if it's triggered by something. Watch players is an entity that can trigger things based on its distance from the player. That's all the necessary things you need to know right now. I'll explain other less significant things while I'm going through the levels. So without further ado, let's get started. Alligator Pit, as it was named by the community, is probably the most famous oddity in all of Series Sam levels. It's a big empty pit in the out of bounds area to the left of the temple, that you can access by shooting 7 rockets into a visibly different rectangle on the floor. The pit is actually a hole built into the level geometry. It has its own sector and is protected by a moving brush with a health of 1000. The brush is targeted by a damager, which is set to deal 1001 damage to an entity when triggered by a nearby trigger. Above the brush there is a touch field, although it is not attached to anything and nothing happens when you walk into it. With the pieces that we have, we can figure out that the trigger was supposed to be used upon entering the touch field, at which point the brush would get destroyed by the damager and the player would fall down the pit. This mechanism was disabled by severing any connections between the trigger and the touch field, and also by deactivating the trigger. Even if we restored the link, the floor still wouldn't get destroyed. There have been many theories about this unused area. Some speculated that it might have been a removed secret, a normal part of the map progression, or a monster trap. It could have also been a trap for rocket jumpers exploring the out-of-bounds areas in the level. The pit itself gave a name to a developer group which created Seriesome Revolution, and you can get an achievement for fighting it in that version, although the trigger, damager and the touch field were all removed from it. The pit survived to Seriesome HD and was finally removed in Fusion. In relation to the alligator pit, it is worth noting that there are remnants of the lower part of the temple still present in the map geometry. Fans from a secret area can help some find other secrets on the map. Each one of them follows a specific set of markers that can make them go to different places. In the classic version, Luxor leads the player to the rocket launcher secret, and in HD, Stepan, Alency and Yurai all go to the double-barreled shotgun secret. A spawner at the top of the second set of stairs to the temple uses a teleporter type. As I explained earlier, teleport spawners use live enemies, not templates, and this spawner is supposed to teleport in a running rocketman. This rocketman is placed in a box outside of normal map's boundaries. He is not a template and is set to spawn on every difficulty. However, the spawner entity is disabled on easy difficulty, and while the spawner itself does not increment the kill count because of its type, the live rocketman outside the map does, resulting in the first broken kill in the game, only on tourist and easy difficulties. Another broken spawner sits near from the previous one, and is this male Gnar spawner on the opposite side. It won't increment the kill count however, as it is disabled on all difficulties. It's still attached to triggers, and if the spawn flags are changed, he appears after killing the very first rocketman. He was probably disabled because he gets in the way of the rocketman that gets hit with a thunderbolt, lessening the impact of that scene. Unlike any other broken spawner, this one was restored in Seriesome Fusion and only appears in co-op. An interesting thing to note about this particular rocketman is that he is both blind and deaf, which means he won't hear or see the player and will only become aggressive after getting shot. Or that would be the case if not for this trigger, which deactivates both his blindness and deafness 1 second after Sam starts whistling. Near the time lock there are two sets of triggers and copiers. On the left we have a Trig Ammo trigger connected to a Copy Ammo copier, and on the right, Trig Health connected to Copy Shield. The triggers cannot be started by anything and the copiers don't have any template set. In the middle of the time lock there is a marker named Where is it? It's not attached to anything. My guess is that it was used by level designers for navigation during the creation of the opening sequence. As you probably know, Croteam is a studio based in Croatia, and as such, English is not their first language. You can notice it by checking the name of any torch in this level, as they are all misspelled as torch. It is worth noting that some parts of the level geometry have their names written in Croatian. For example, in this level the beams inside the pyramid are named Greda, which is Croatian for a beam. Remember this box outside the map boundaries that is the home of the teleporting rocketeer? Boxes like this appear in every map and are called template rooms. They are used to store enemy and item templates, model distractions, music and sometimes even level logic. Usually these rooms will also include templates not used by the map, as the room could have been either copied from a prefab or from another level. Sometimes a template made in advance wasn't used by the level designer in the end. I won't go over every single unused template as it would take too long and most of them aren't that interesting anyway. I'll only talk about special cases. In this room we can see that at some point in the development invisible Gnars and Kamikazes were meant to appear on this level, as they are the only unused enemy types here. And tricks a message that's given us info about this level is named Message Holder Karnak. There's also an unused destruction holder for the Sphinx object, which could be a leftover from the alpha version of this map where the Sphinxes do appear. Although that's very unlikely, as in Seriesome Alpha Hatshepsut is a completely different level, with different geometry, spawns, progression and placement in the campaign. Because of that, I won't be comparing these two versions together. I will, however, compare the Sand Canyon from the final game to an early iteration present in a recently leaked Serious Sam internal test version 0.10. The level is placed after a Tomb of Ramzes, although we don't know if that's the intended progression. Both levels end with the player acquiring the double-barreled shotgun, so it is possible that they were still figuring out the level progression at that time. In this build, the level uses an early version of the soundtrack used in the level Secret Yards in the final game. We can't know if this track was originally made for Sand Canyon and then later repurposed for Secret Yards, or if it was just a track that they had laying around that they assigned to the map. As in this version, Karnak Demo uses the music from Sewers for some reason. Originally, the map progression through the canyons was reversed. We were supposed to start at what is now the second canyon, moving through the underground section as normal, to come out at the now first canyon and exit the map in a room used as a trap in the final version. Fights over the hill were a bit different. More male gnars used to spawn in. There were more firecrackers instead of rocketeers. Placement of a clear spawner is different, picking up a small armor pickup spawns a wearable, a male gnar and 2 bombermen instead of just 3 clears. There was also an entire encounter with 2 wearables, 6 harpies and a male gnar that was removed in the final version. The double-barreled shotgun pickup was also removed unsurprisingly, as the level progression issue has been obviously solved in the final game. Back to the full build, there is an unused touch field on the right side of the hill, which could have been a mistake made by the level designer while trying to place a teleporter. There are 4 unused Rocketman spawners above the hill. They are disabled on all difficulties. However, they are still attached to a trigger and when enabled, they spawn after killing the kamikazes. The trigger that opens the first secret of the level is named Trigger Open Secret Cave, while the trigger that counts the secret is named Trigger Secret Room. This could be nothing, but I wonder if this secret was at some point a cave in the hill instead of a room inside the temple. The shadow map of the secret canyon is a mirrored version of the first canyon. On easy difficulty you can pick up the shells without triggering the clear trap. You probably remember that little note to Indiana Jones in the underground section. To make it work, Crow Team used 2 invisible brushes. One holds the rolling stone below the ceiling. The second one acts as a ramp that directs the stone to the correct direction. Both brushes move out of the level after the sequence is done. Before the Marsh Hopper room, there is a door controller attached to a trigger, which deactivates the said door controller while also triggering another trigger that's not attached to anything. This weird sequence does absolutely nothing. A fight music was supposed to play during the Marsh Hopper fight. All the logic is still there, but the 2 triggers that were supposed to switch the fight music on and off are deactivated and will never trigger. In the internal test version, this clear, which spawns at some point during the fight on hard and serious, also appeared on normal, and on serious difficulty he was replaced by a juvenile arachnoid. It is possible that the armor trap in the room after the Marsh Hopper fight was at some point composed of 3 clears that jump on the player only on serious difficulty, as the name of the spawner suggests. As it stands, the trap is now made out of 2 female gnars that spawn on normal and above, and 1 clear spawning on hard and above. The trigger that spawns the enemies is named Serious Hard Trap, and is enabled for all difficulties. Near the armor trap there is an ambient light entity out of bounds, and next to the Marsh Hopper slope, also out of bounds, are 2 light entities named Enemy Light, which aren't attached to any enemy. The fights in the second canyon were also a bit different in the internal test version. Of note are a liberal use of harpies, earlier biomechanoid miner encounter and a lack of wearables. Only 1 appears in an armor trap. There is an unused medium health pickup template underneath the second canyon. On easy and normal difficulties, you can pick up this armor without triggering the trap, as the trigger that activates it is attached to a +1 HP pill instead of the armor. These small but impactful changes between difficulty settings showcase the attention to detail the developers had at the time. Most levels have two sets of touch fields at the end, one which usually ends the level and one that does nothing. In the template room we can see 4 enemies, 1 racketeer and 3 kamikazes used in the temple sequence. They all have "with light" added to their names, although only the racketeer carries a light entity. In the internal test version, 1 kamikaze also has a light entity attached to him. A wearable that spawns when you reach the middle of the second canyon has a name A Bull Speech Template, implying that Sam will say something after killing it, but no such thing happens, as there are no voice holders attached to it. The only unused template in the room is this +200 armor pickup. Right before the Arachnoid corridor there is a spawner that has 2 templates set. One is a regular template that uses a female Gnar, and the other is a series-only template which is a clear. The issue is that the spawner appears only on series difficulty, so the Gnar template is left unused. In the Laughing Pill room there is a trigger that does nothing. The teleporter to the rocket launcher secret was in a different place in the internal test version. It was placed right next to the secret health. At the top floor of the big hall there is a Spawn Series Boneman spawner that, despite its name, is enabled for all difficulties, but won't spawn on any of them, as it is not attached to any trigger and doesn't have a set template. A quick side note, Series-Sam Revolution fixes all broken spawners that appeared in the Xenos video. Every other spawner which wasn't mentioned in that video is left untouched. A lone male Gnar is sitting inside the level geometry at the top of the hall. He's not stuck though, enemies have no problems passing through one-sided walls. What's interesting is that this Gnar spawns as a ground attacker and then retracts his limbs to become a flying Gnar head. You will never see his transformation as it is obfuscated by the wall. While we're still in the tall room, it is worth mentioning that this trap not only spawns dangerous enemies, but also 2 health pickups in different parts of the room. The blue shield trap before the final arena was made out of a blue biomechanoid, a male Gnar, a bomberman and a rocketman in the internal test version. The double shotgun fight was completely different in the internal test. Instead of being swarmed by clears, you were surrounded by adult arachnoids. There are some leftovers from that version in the final game. There are 2 spawners named Spawn Scorp Backup, which spawn a clear on series difficulty and a kamikaze on everything else, which implies that they still wanted to use arachnoids more prominently after the changes. There's also this set of triggers, which count how many arachnoids were killed during the fight on different difficulties. However, all triggers only count up to 1, as there's only one enemy which increments the counter, and it's the adult arachnoid which spawns at the end. The other template attached to the counting trigger is left unused. Other remnants of this early version are those 3 patrol templates, which are left unused. They appeared as a backup for scorpions in the internal test. Invisible male Gnars are not present even in that version, and must have been added sometime later. While we are still in the internal test, there's an unused music changer, which will change the MIDI music to a track called Mystic Horror. The fight music that we hear during the double shotgun fight is a result of a much lower score threshold for heavy music to start playing. It's only 10,000 in the test version, while in the final game it's 100,000. Still in the test, this spawner spawns an arachnoid on series and a bomber on all other difficulties, but its spawn flags are set to series only, so the bomber never appears. Back to the final version, this Gnar/clear spawner is not triggered by anything, resulting in a broken kill. This isn't the only broken spawner in this room. There is a rocket pickup which appears only on a hardened series and it spawns 3 clears, 2 of which are enabled for all difficulties, but there is no way to trigger the spawners on easy or normal, so there's 2 more broken kills for those difficulty settings. There are a few spawners named Spawn Dev Boneman 2 on rockets, which are not triggered by rockets but by 2 health pickups. Most of them spawn kamikazes on anything but series, but one spawner uses the same clear template for both normal and series. A wearable was at some point used in the corridor trap instead of an arachnoid. In the template room there is an unused template named Wearable Open Doors template, the same name as the arachnoid which appears in the trap. He's also attached to the same trigger chain, which means killing him will open the door to progress further. This had to be a very early idea, as the wearable was already replaced in the internal test. There are 2 other interestingly named unused templates. These are Scorpman Sarge template wait and Scorpman trap template. They are sitting here even in the test version, so just like the wearable, they are remnants from an even earlier version of the map. If you are going for all kills in this map, be careful. If you go too far in the first area and trigger a reptiloid spawn, you'll disable the Marshhopper spawners. Near the entrance to the temple there is a trigger named Open Door on Easy. It is not started by anything and does not trigger anything. It's completely useless. It is possible that at some point the devs were considering allowing players on Easy to skip the boss fight or to not have the boss fight at all on that difficulty. If you try to hide behind the statue during the Highlander fight, the statue will be destroyed, along with the pedestal it sits on.
Now that's some serious firepower.
In the pool area there is a plus 25 health pickup that spawns 3 fishes. This pickup only appears on easy and normal difficulties. The spawners, however, have different spawn flags. One spawner shows up on all settings, the second only on normal and above, and the final one is set to only appear on hard and serious difficulty. This of course results in 3 broken kills on hard and serious. There are 4 different camera angles of the last cutscene, depending on where you'll fall. Series Some Revolution added a diving sound to the last cutscene, but it only plays if you fall near the bridge. That's because the touch field which triggers the sound to play covers only this small portion of the area. In the template room there are destruction holders for palm trees, but there are no palms in this level. In some levels there are templates for ground-only harpies. These harpies will never fly and will only walk on the ground. They aren't used by any spawners in the entire game. This level has some interesting difficulty setting changes. For example, hard difficulty has the least amount of ammo at the start. There's a plus 50 armor pickup that's disabled only on normal difficulty, and there is some additional ammo on the final island, available only on hard. This spawner on the first platform spawns a reptiloid on serious difficulty, and a female gnar on everything else. It is however disabled on anything but serious, so the gnar template is left unused. In version 0.10, the biomechanoid major from the first island spawns directly on it, instead of appearing on the second island. There's also no minor biomechanoid in the distance. Still in the test version, the second island had a clear spawner ambushing you from behind. This bridge does not explode, only bridges 5 and 6 go down in this version. The second bridge won't explode in the final version either, at least if you are playing on serious, as the trigger that is supposed to call the damager is disabled on that difficulty. During the fight on the second island, 2 reptiloids spawn. Their spawners use a triggered type, and have a count of 2, but they are only triggered once, which results in 2 broken kills. On the third island there are 3 spawners. One spawns male gnars, the second one invisible male gnars, and the third one clears. They all have a count of 4 and are set to run over the bridge to the second island. They will never appear, as the trigger that is supposed to summon them has spawn flags set off for all difficulties. The designer could have simply deactivated it. It would have saved him 3 clicks in the editor. the test version, the kamikaze on the third island spawned on the bridge behind the player. I mentioned that only bridges 5 and 6 go down in the test version. The wording is intentional as the bridges do not explode, they have a falling animation. In fact, all bridges have this animation set up, but it's only triggered for these two bridges. This is true for the final version as well, and on the 5th island there's a trigger which starts this animation, but it's immediately interrupted by a damager destroying the bridge. The 5th island fight used to have wearables instead of minor biomechanoids, as seen in the internal test. In the final version, the Watcher that triggers the fight is still named Watcher 5th Platform Bulls. The 6th and final bridge won't explode, but if you are playing on single player it will still make an explosion sound to trick you into thinking that you can't go back. In the circular waterfall area, some markers used by harpies are placed out of bounds. In the secret before dropping down to the cave, there are two heart-only reptiloid spawners that use a teleporter type. Similarly to the Rocketeer from the first level, these enemies used by the spawners appear on all difficulties, which results in 2 broken kills on anything but hard. In the teleport secret there are 2 copiers, one is used for the teleport entity, while the other one does nothing. Lava Golem used to be the final boss of this level. The internal test version of this map had quite different spawns. There are 3 Rocketeers standing around, health pill trap spawned more kamikazes closer to the player. Additional enemies spawned in the middle of the area instead of on the mountains or near the temple. A biomechanoid major spawns on the hill next to the temple and slides around. There is only one wave of enemies while approaching the temple, and there are no reptiloids in the first area. Killing the adult arachnoid at the beginning does a few things. First thing is that on normal and above it triggers a reptiloid spawn. The second thing is that it hits this trigger spawn scorp, which is supposed to spawn a minor or major biomechanoid depending on the difficulty, and also copy some rockets. The issue is that this trigger needs to be hit 4 times in order to be triggered, but it's only hit once. This is a leftover from the internal test version, where the trigger is also linked to these 3 Rocketeers. It correctly spawns an adult arachnoid there, as the name of the trigger suggests. But in the final version this is a broken spawner and an unobtainable rocket pickup. The third and final thing this arachnoid is linked to is this trigger spawn health trap. Despite its name, it triggers a plus 50 armor pickup, which activates a trap. One of the harpy spawners used in this trap has a spawn flag set to normal and above. The issue is that the adult arachnoid whose death is required for the armor to spawn appears only on hard and above, which means that this is a broken kill for normal difficulty. 7 kamikaze spawners in the first area have their type set to triggered and a count of 2, but are only triggered once, so only 7 will spawn onto 14. This is a leftover from the internal test, where these spawners get triggered after killing the same wearable template from 2 different spawners. This major biomechanoid was at some point, as the name suggests, a reptiloid placed at the top of the temple. The early version of the temple fight consisted of 2 shrunken reptiloids placed on the beams, instead of a giant clear wave. At the start of the Marshupper fight, some was supposed to say,
Alright, who wants some?
but instead he says,
Let's get serious.
It turns out that the file that was supposed to contain this quote is actually a duplicate of the other one with an incorrect name attached. Second wave of the Marshupper fight has a deactivator set for easy and normal difficulties, and it requires 156 kills to be triggered. The issue is that it only counts hoppers from the second wave that it was supposed to deactivate, excluding those 3 first wave spawners, which all have a total of 21 hoppers. The third wave also has a deactivator, but it's not triggered by anything. The internal test version had harpies appear in the first fight. You also get armor at the beginning. On hard difficulty, the red backpack is replaced by a green one, giving less ammo. What's interesting is that it's named Surprise Hard Pack, but it doesn't do anything special, nothing is attached to it. Internal test had an arachnoid spawn when exiting the dunes. The template for it is still present in the final version. Ammo copiers in the main area are named Copy Hard Ammo. Copy Serious Pack spawns a regular backpack instead, and Surprise Hard Pack makes a return. A lot of enemies in the main area have their names end on approach. This implies that in an early version of this map there were no waves, just one giant fight which started when approaching the city. In the internal test you acquire a minigun here instead of the laser gun. The copier for it is still named Copy Minigun in the final version. In the final area there is a pill named Power Jump Pill. Picking it up spawns all the items needed for map progression. It exists so that the player wouldn't get softlocked after rocket jumping to this area or getting accidentally thrown up here by a werewolf. Inside the yard there are two biomechanoid minor spawners, which have a wait time set to 100,000 seconds, or about 27.7 hours. If you want to get all kills in this level, you need to be very patient. Apparently some designer at Crow Team didn't know the English word for slope, so while naming the enemy spawners he used the Croatian word kosina. This is the first out of two instances of Croatian words used outside of markers or word geometry. Final arena was supposed to have an additional wave with kamikazes. It exists in the internal test version, but the trigger that starts it is never called. Unused templates for this wave are still present under the map in the final version. If you ever wondered what those dark patches on the ground are, it's a repeating shadow map texture of the first dune. In the template room there are two unused door sounds and an unused switch sound. The cell and grenade pickups were also not needed, as well as every armor pickup. At the beginning of the level you'll encounter a biomechanoid miner. Killing him spawns 12 enemies around the area. This biomech, however, appears only on normal and above, but all spawners he activates are still present on easy difficulty, which means 12 broken kills for easy. The same thing happens with this rocketman at the very start. His spawn flags are set to hard and serious. The spawner he triggers also appears on normal, so there's no way to get those 10 kills on that difficulty. These cells to the left of the start used to be rocket pickups, as suggested by the trigger that's attached to one of them. While playing the level you might have noticed that a lot of clears get stuck on this cornered house. This is caused by a weird quirk in the Sirius engine, where monsters ignore the first marker they are set to follow. This spawner has its first marker set too far away, and the clears go straight to the second marker in a straight line, causing them to get stuck on this house. Placing a marker before the one they have selected solves this issue. The reptiloid spawner at the top of the entrance has its type set to triggered and is triggered by two things. First by this touch field at the start, second by this armor pickup. The problem is that the spawner count is set to 1, so the second trigger does nothing. You can get that armor for free. There are two hidden columns in the city walls, probably a leftover from dunes. This trapped pill spawns a health pickup when picked up. The location of that pickup is different on serious difficulty. Trigger 7th pass is not called by anything, resulting in 7 broken kills. It was supposed to be triggered by this touch field, which is not active until you pick up one of those two pills. This whole sequence is very weird. Biomechanoid minor spawner on the bridge can be triggered a total of 3 times. You can spawn him by picking up this health pickup, killing these 2 gnar heads, and killing the adult arachnoid. That arachnoid does not appear on easy difficulty, so that's 1 broken kill there. In the secret passage there is a set of triggers and door controllers. This sequence was supposed to show a message when the player starts going up after passing the second door controller. There is no message set, however, and even if there was, the trigger that counts as a secret disables the first door controller that was supposed to trigger the message to appear. 2 of the 3 fishes in the secret passage disappear shortly after spawning. This is because their path markers are set too low. In the final area there is a light entity slightly out of bounds. At the very end of the level there is a trap that was supposed to spawn 3 fishes behind you and 120 marshoppers in front of you on the slope. All spawners are disabled for all difficulties, but the logic, the watcher and the trigger are intact. This is one of 2 levels that uses different lighting and skybox when playing on serious difficulty. This behavior is different in Serious Sam HD. There, the weather changes to cloudy and rainy when playing on co-op on serious difficulty. At the beginning of the level there is a beheaded spawner that has no template set. Right before the city area there are 2 spawners which are supposed to spawn kamikazes on easy, normal and hard difficulties and clears on serious difficulty. Their spawn flags are set to only appear on serious difficulty, so they never act as kamikaze spawners. On top of the gates to the city sits an unused pause wait trigger. Its function was to delay an action by 15 seconds, but as of now it's not linked to anything. Possibly the most infamous part of the game. There's a lot of interesting things here to cover. First off, all scarabs are named Fake Key. Makes me wonder if at some point you only had to collect 1 scarab, but you couldn't tell which one was the real one until you picked it up. The game registers a dummy scarab as a valid key for a door. On the roofs of the buildings we can spot a recurring set of triggers. They were supposed to deactivate certain touch fields for a set amount of time, probably to avoid overflowing the player with constant enemy spawns, but all deactivators are disabled and do nothing. The constant activation and deactivation of touch fields must have made the area much less predictable and annoying to 100%. Every doorway leading to a scarab contains a touch field which triggers some enemies. The very first doorway also has the same setup, although the trigger is not linked to any spawner. This trigger is named Trick 2 Beasts, which should mean that it triggers 2 reptiloid spawners, but it's actually 2 arachnoid spawners. I think reptiloids would have been a better choice for this area. The very first touch field on the bottom left of the area sets off a trigger which is disabled on easy difficulty. This causes 9 enemies to not spawn, resulting in a broken kill count. Another trigger disabled on easy, this time in the top left of the area in the health trap. This one causes 5 broken kills. Here another broken spawner on easy. This time it's a headman spawner with no template. It also appears on normal. This biomechanoid minor spawner has its type set to triggered and a count of 2, but is only triggered once, resulting in a broken kill on all difficulties. Near the middle left scarab there is an untargeted clear spawner with a count of 8. 8 more broken kills on hard and serious difficulties. In the bottom right scarab area there is a clear spawner with its count set to 0. It still spawns a single clear, but does not increment the kill count. Killing the clear does make the player's kill count go up, however. An identical spawner sits only a house away. Throughout the area there are spawners with series-only templates that have their spawn flags set to not appear on that difficulty, which means we will never see these enemies in action. At the end of the clear corridor there are 3 very weird spawners, each set to either normal, hard or serious. Each is of the destroyable type and each one of them is single player only. They all use a template called A Boneman on Shotgun, which adds up to a counter called Count Bonemans on Shotgun. They only start spawning after you are done with the main clear wave and you go back to this touch field. Killing all of them opens the doors to the final area. There's even a counter for easy, even though there are no spawners set for that difficulty. Crossing the final touch field deactivates the clears and opens the door after 2 seconds. I have no idea why these spawners exist, why they work like that and why they're named like that. It seems like it's a leftover from a previous iteration of this area. Besides the aforementioned spawners, normal difficulty has the highest number of enemies in the main clear wave. The trigger that spawns clear skeletons in the final arena on co-op is named Trigger Bonemans on Shotgun. All wearable spawners are enabled for all difficulties. The triggers, however, use the correct spawn flags. This results in a lot of broken kills. You were supposed to get a serious pack before the Harpy fight, instead of the regular backpack, as implied by its name. 2 triggers named Trigger Bulls are used to spawn clears in the last fight. The temples on the both sides of the final arena are empty, but there are still lights out of bounds where the rooms should be. In the template room there are 3 sets of unused triggers and templates: A Bull Count with Trig on Bull, A Boneman Count template with Count Bonemans, and A Rocketman Trick with Trick on Rocketman. This is one of 2 levels in the game with a lower score requirement for heavy music to play. It's only 50,000 here, while on other levels it's 100,000. Judging by the camera placement when you load the level in the editor, this was likely the last change made to this level. The other level to have a lower score requirement is Sacred Yards. This is the second level that has a different skybox on serious difficulty. Behind the dunes at the very start of the level we can find a lone column. In the second wave there's an untargeted scorp spawner that has no template. Inside the building on the left there are 2 palm trees. In the middle arena there is an unused plus 25 armor copier, nothing is targeting it. At the entrance of the final area there is a trigger called Thunder Crashes Sphinx. Unfortunately it does nothing as it has no entities attached to it. In the same area there are 2 clear spawners which are not targeted by anything. There's also a reptiloid that will never spawn because his trigger is disabled on all difficulties. Throughout the level you can spot lone enemy bases. They follow markers named Marker Old and are set to not appear on any difficulty. These are enemies seen in the flyover demo that plays after opening the game. 3 secrets have markers placed near them. Their purpose is unknown. A lot of the enemy spawns in this version of the map, mostly red biomechs, are repurposed co-op only enemies from the demo version. A rocketeer in the first room is stuck inside level geometry. That's because his position wasn't changed between the demo and the final versions, while the pillar geometry did see a change. The Temple of Ra has its own world base. This is the only example in the game where a large and playable chunk of the level is not a part of the main world base. At the entrance to the Temple of Ra there's a rocketeer which will never spawn. It's because the trigger activates the spawner instead of triggering it. Same thing with this reptiloid over here. Below the Temple of Ra sits a clear template with the name Who's Your Deity. There is nothing special about it besides suggesting that at some point it triggered a quote. Checkpoints 4 and 5 are unused. In this area there are a few misnamed enemies. Before the sleeping scorpion room there's a trigger named Door Activator, which is not linked to any targets. It was most likely used to activate a door controller which would open the door to the room, but since the controller was removed the trigger lost its purpose. The co-op teleporter to the scorp room is used as a prefab in almost every level in the game. Another misnamed spawner in the scorp room, and an unused deactivator. More misnamed spawners in the monkey area. In the Ankh pool area there are two sets of ambient lights. They have a radius of 0, which means they don't actually emit any light. They are situated high above the ground, which suggests that they possibly wanted to place more towers on the walls. Near the entrance to the pool there is a Biomech Major spawner which gets deactivated by a trigger, so he will never spawn. On the left side of the Ankh there is an untargeted adult arachnoid spawner, likely a leftover from the demo version of the map. Two reptiloid spawners on the top of the temple in the Ankh pool area have a type of triggered, at the count of 2, but they are only triggered once, resulting in 2 broken kills. At the top of the entrance to the temple there is an unused trigger. It gets called after teleporting back to the pool area, but nothing is attached to it. The switches for the obelisk secret used to be in a different place in the public test demo. Inside the obelisk secret there is an unused checkpoint 666, most likely used to quickly test the gravity function. The trap on the left side of the temple in the pool area has triggers for each difficulty. They are enabled for all difficulties, but the spawners have correct flags. The trigger that's supposed to finish the fight and spawn a plus 50 health pickup on normal and hard is disabled on normal difficulty, so the pickup will never spawn there. This touch field in the same trap is not linked to any targets. Not only that, it gets disabled after picking up the statue. It is likely a leftover from the demo version. One more misnamed spawner. In the second to last arena, one marsh hopper that is supposed to jump at the beginning has no markers set, so he will remain at his spawn location. Fights in the second to last arena have deactivators set for them. They are not triggered by anything, however. The touch field in the doorway to the final arena does nothing. There are two different ways to end this level in co-op. The first one is to simply walk into the statue sitting on the pedestal. The second one is to jump into the door controller on the right of the pedestal, which will activate a sequence that will open the doors to the long corridor where the second exit trigger is located. In the very first area there is an arachnoid spawner whose spawn flags are set to not appear only on normal difficulty, which is highly unusual. Below the first area there are 3 sound templates. Door stone 1 sec is unused. Trigger count for Iman, which is used to spawn a bunch of enemies in the first area, is incorrectly named. It requires 6 triggers instead of 4 and counts not only gnars but also clears and an arachnoid. There is a hole in the level geometry at the walls in the monkey statue area. This lone +1 armor shard was supposed to trigger a copier, which would have spawned a backpack. The item is not connected to the trigger, however, so nothing will spawn. Starting from the right side area, in the first yard there are 2 interestingly named triggers. Trigger spawn nuke, which copies some cannonballs, and trigger move sand, which spawns a few enemies. That second one is connected to an arachnoid template called A-Scorp Sand, suggesting that there might have been a different concept for this area at an earlier date. All 4 pylons were destroyable at some point, as suggested by this trigger name and unused sound templates. While playing the level, you probably noticed that those reptiloids up on walls and columns are walking in place and sometimes they even fall down, which makes them basically unkillable. That's because the level designer used a template with a fall height of 1, thinking it would stop the reptiloids from falling down. He should have used a template with radius of attack set to 0, which would have stopped the enemy from moving entirely. Near the entrance to the secret dark room in the feather area there is an unused explosion sound, suggesting that perhaps the player was supposed to destroy an obelisk or the floor beneath in order to access the room. On top of the temple in the feather area there is a Highlander spawner that is not targeted by anything. 3 spawners are misnamed in the feather area. And 1 more in the left side area. There is a biomechanoid miner spawner in the same area that is not targeted by anything. Have you ever wondered why some clears in this area seem to have their AI disabled? It is because the markers that they are set to follow make them both blind and deaf, which means they won't notice the player unless they receive damage from them. The secret ammo depot in the heart area has a trigger referencing a secret ambush. The only thing this trigger does is to call another trigger which raises a moving brush after moving away from the depot. The monkey statue in the center area was meant to be destroyed after this trigger counts to 3. The only things that interact with it are 2 reptiloid templates. The first one is A Beast Running, which is used by this spawner in front of the eye door, but only in co-op and only on normal and hard difficulties, as on series it uses a different template. The second one is A Beast Sensing, which is not used by any spawner in the level. As it stands now, there is only one way to up the trigger count, which means this destruction sequence will never occur on its own. In front of the eye door there are 2 unused door controllers, one named Door Controller Unlock Wooden Key and the second named Door Controller Unlock Stone Key. Another unused door controller before the spike area, Door Controller Unlock Gold Key. On the left side of the central room there is a clear spawner which is not targeted by anything. The reptiloid closet wall has an opening animation setup but gets overridden by a damager. The clear at the exit from the spike pit secret was at some point a reptiloid. The harpies in the spike pit were supposed to fly up as they have path markers set, but they won't move however until the second marker has patrol time set to a higher value. In the obelisk room there is a trigger called Trigger Pull Stairs that is not linked to anything. 2 additional armor pickups spawn on hard and series in the final area. In the same area there's a trigger named Count Items. It needs to be triggered 4 times in order to do something, but it's only triggered twice by placing the 3rd and 4th ankhs on their pedestals. Even if it was triggered 4 times, it will still do nothing as it is not linked to any targets. On the right side of the final area, behind the wall, there is a lonely single player only mega health pickup. Below the last arena there is an unused kamikaze template, which, judging by its name, was supposed to be a bomber template. This level also has a second exit in the form of a door control over here, but it can't be reached because it's impossible to go past the touch field which ends the level. In the template room there are non-template enemies which do not teleport to the level. They are attached to model holders, which means they can be copied by the copier into the level all at once. This trick is used in the next level to spawn marsh hoppers on destroyed statues. This whole room is most likely just a leftover from a previous version of Sacred Yards. Both rooms look exactly the same, with the addition of another marsh hopper group and a lack of biomech major. Instead of using model holders to spawn in biomechs on a horn column distraction, they use normal spawners. This is probably because when you copy a model holder, you literally copy the enemies. They still stay in the room out of bounds, but their new copies appear in the level. These new versions don't add to the overall kill count, so if you theoretically triggered all the copiers and they went to the template room to kill those enemies, you would exceed the maximum kill count. Fun fact, still in Luxor, the biomech major and the model holder for the hoppers don't appear on easy. The main world base has its spawn flag set to not appear on easy and normal difficulties, but since world bases are not affected by spawn flags, this change has no effect. It was probably a mistake made by the level designer while assigning spawn flags for a spawner. You most likely know about the geek secret, but I'll show it anyway. It's a sequence of triggers that allows you to beat the level without triggering any enemy spawns. In the water pylon area there is an unused sequence of triggers for all difficulties. In the same area there are 5 triggered spawners with a count of 2 that are only triggered once, resulting in 5 broken kills. There's another broken kill in this area. It's a fish spawner that's not targeted. In the left side area there's a triggered clear spawner with a count of 2 that is only triggered once. In the right side area there's a fish which never spawns because its trigger is not targeted by anything. In the same area there are 6 reptiloid spawners which get triggered after collecting the Sphinx. 4 of these spawners have a count of 2, 4, 3 and 2 respectively. You can't trigger them more than once, so that's 7 broken kills. You might have wondered why there is no column by the Mega Health in the Great Pyramid secret area. Well, there is, it's just hidden below the ground. Right before the exit there are 2 unused door controllers. Door controller unlock Amon key and door controller unlock a gold key. Player start 9 is a checkpoint that is not used during normal gameplay. Teleporting to it via cheats, however, activates a special trigger which automatically unlocks the mechanism and allows you to instantly exit the level. You can very easily destroy the palm destruction model by rocket jumping out of bounds at the start of the level. Seriesome Revolution added doors behind the player in the first area, as well as invisible walls surrounding the main area, making the bouncers outside obsolete. Misnamed co-op only spawners in the main area. There is a light entity out of bounds below the Great Pyramid. If you try to hide behind the 2 columns at the entrance to the Great Pyramid, they'll get destroyed. If If you are playing this level in co-op and you go too fast, you will have to jump through the hoops twice during the final fight in order to activate the laser. This is because the trigger that is supposed to open both the pyramid and the doors to the laser can only be triggered once, even though it's attached to the 3 different things. If this trigger gets called before the spaceship reaches the pyramid, only the pyramid doors will open and the laser doors will remain shut, as the spaceship will not respond to any triggers while it's moving. By jumping straight to checkpoint 9, you can start a hidden quick test sequence, which will immediately start the boss fight. Inside the pyramid there's an unused player start 12. There's no player start 11 anywhere in the map. I will only talk about things exclusive to this version of the level, as it is pointless to reiterate what I already talked about. The obelisk in front of the Temple of Ra hides below the ground at the start of the level. The Who is your deity clear template is linked to a trigger sequence that was supposed to play a quote, with different amounts of kills required for each difficulty. The quote was removed and the triggers do nothing. This version of the level contains an additional secret which differs depending on selected difficulty. To get the secret on easy, normal and hard difficulties, you need to kill the adult arachnoid before walking to the room. You'll get a special message which reads, "You have mastered the situation. I don't believe my P9 2000 GHz. You killed the beast without the rocket launcher. How come that idea didn't cross my microchips? This earns you extra credits in your account." Despite what the message says, you can use the secret rocket launcher to kill the arachnoid. It makes no difference. To get the secret on serious difficulty, you need to kill the arachnoid while you're in the room, but not in the very center of it. You'll only get a simple on-screen message, no cool Netrix entry. In the Ankh pool area there are a few spawners of the triggered type and a count of 2. In order to trigger them a second time, you first need to walk into their touch fields before getting the statue, and then walk back into them again after picking it up. The first set of touch fields will get deactivated, while the second will activate again, allowing you to spawn those extra monsters. The trap on the left side of the temple in the pool area now correctly spawns plus 50 health pickup on normal. These were all the things that I could find while aimlessly flying through the levels in the series editor. If you know something that I don't know, if you found something new, or feel that I missed something, feel free to write in the comments. Thank you for spending your time watching this video. I hope you found it as interesting as I did.